my hearing aids out, so I won't be able to hear anything you're saying. And they say when I've got them in, my voice drops, nobody can hear me. Can everybody hear me right now?
Perfect.
Perfect, louder.
Thank you.
Well, we'll see how we go. And you all know what it's all about, don't you? Because you've been here many times, trying to point out the non-duality, the one without a second, the absolute, which basically all the great scriptures will tell you. It is the absolute. That's all there is. But they put terms like God on it, liberation, realisation, and freedom, and all this other sorts of things. So many different words. And we latch onto the words and lose sight of the ultimate meaning of it all. In ancient Sanskrit saying, I don't know from what tradition it came from, it says, mind is the master power that moulds and makes, and man is mind, and evermore he takes the tool of thought, and shaping what he wills, brings forth 1,000 joys, 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret, and it comes to pass, environment is but a looking glass. In other words, we don't realise it, and we say my mind, and we think this mind is really something that belongs to us, to the human form. But if it's what it says is true, it's the master power, it is the same as the concept God or awareness or liberation or all these other things. It is the one essence. And man is mind. So it's that's formed this body to express through. And it's through thought, the tool of thought, that we shape our happiness, our sadness, our joy, our pleasure, our understanding or our ignorance, all shaped through this tool. That's all the thought is, a tool. And we take the word to be real, not a tool. And he thinks in secret, and it comes to pass that all this manifestation is but just what each and every one of us is conjuring up in our own, in this thing we call mind, that we believe we have the mind. But if you ask the question, am I this body? Am I this mind? Investigate and have a look. Innately you know you're not the body already. You already know these things. But we've lost sight of it through the Word. It tells you in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, the Word was God. In other words, that's all God is a label, a word we put on there. All things were made by Him, by the Word. And isn't that so? All the things in this room and the things outside, you put words on and label. And there was nothing made that was made without the Word. And the Word was made flesh, or became a seeming pattern, shape and form. So the Word has formed the pattern, the shape and the form, and if it didn't have this pattern, shape and form to express through, which we call mind or thought, how could there be any expression at all? So in its absoluteness, it's patterning, shaping, forming and expressing is everything. And the difference with these human patterns is we've learnt words. How many words were you born with? When you investigate and you'll see you weren't born with any words. Every word you've ever spoken or ever liked to speak has been picked up along the way. We've learnt all the words. And then you need to reckon we take the word to be the thing. Take the word water to be the thing. But the word is not the thing. Try and drink it. Try and drink the word. Try and cook with the word fire. Try and heat yourself with it. Cook with it. So what's this word I or me as a so-called person? And what's that word person? It's another word we've learned, coming from persona, the ancient Latin, I think it was, meaning a mask. So we've got a conceptual image or a mask. We've disguised ourselves in and taken ourselves to be this person. And we made each so-called person a separate entity, an individual. All the great scriptures will tell you there is only one God, there's only one essence, one absolute, one great perfection. It's all one. And all this manifestation is made up of the many. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. It was
Wonderful, thank you. Wonderful.
And the word is not real. And what's word is something we've acquired. So take the word off this manifestation. What is it then? The basic word we put on it then is things. Everything, every pattern, every shape, every form is a thing. All appearing on that basic screen, which is the silence, the stillness, the emptiness, they're the labels you put on it to try and describe the emptiness or the awareness of something. But can something come from nothing? No thing. We say nothing, but that's where we get led astray again, because saying nothing, we think it's zero, zilch, a vacuum or a void. But it doesn't mean that at all. It means no thing. It has no particular shape, no particular pattern, no particular form. It just is. So all this manifestation, this basic screen in which it appears, is no thing. And things appear in that and on that screen like reflections appear in the mirror. But like a reflection in the mirror, can you say it's there? Go up and try and grab the image in the mirror, if you can. You can't. So you can't say it's not there, but you can't say it is there. And that turns out that's all this manifestation is. A seeming thing, patterning, shape and form and expressing. But it's innately one thing, patterning, shaping, forming, appearing and expressing as everything. And the everything is really the no thing. So when they say it's like a dream, they're pretty right. It appears solid, substantial, it appears real. You go to sleep at night, and what happens in the dream? While that deep sleep is there, a dream can start. And then that dream can be all sorts of worlds and things, different worlds, different patterns, different places you're put, all sorts of things going on. And that body, mind you call you, taking all sorts of different activities and things going on it. And we take them to be real in the dream. But when you wake up and realise it was only a dream, you realise that no thing had ever happened in that dream. It appeared to happen, and on the waking, it all disappeared. But you don't realise what we wake up to is this, and this is the waking dream. And the only difference, the way you can tell the difference between the waking dream and the sleeping dream, in the sleeping, when you wake up to the sleeping dream, the mountains, the lakes, or the hills, the house, or wherever, in all the pattern, shapes and forms, and the people you were seeing, and the words that were coming out of your mouth, your body hadn't moved off the beds and no words had come out of your mouth. It was all taking place somewhere in that pattern you call your body. So the organs or the brains or whatever that goes on in that body. But nothing really happened. But you wake up and this dream is still continuing, and it seemingly has a continuity. Because it seemingly continues every night, or not every night, whenever it does, from whenever it left off previously. And the mountains and hills and things like that don't disappear when you wake up to this dream. It goes on in a seemingly non-cognising way. We are not recognising it as a dream. It's naturally a dream. We're taking it to be real. And taking it to be real, what do? We take the dreamer to be a separate entity, an individual, a person, a mask. The person comes from the word persona, the mask. And what's the mask we put upon ourselves? It's a mask of concepts, thoughts, images, ideas. Have a look at that thing you call you. Who are you? Who am I? Oh, I'm Bob, the Australian. A good fella, or not so good. Yeah, that's all concepts. I'm unhappy, I'm sad, I'm fearful, I'm anxious. All concepts. And so, energy of belief goes into it, and I take myself to this conceptual image and suffer accordingly. They tell you in the scriptures again, they pointed out, they call it the great perfection, or the absolute. What's the great perfection? What can you add to the perfect? If it's perfect, you can't add anything at all to it. And what can you take away from it? You can't take anything at all from it, away from it. So it's just as it is, the great perfection. And they give it here in one sentence in Buddhism. The great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. Now what's concept? What is conceptual? Concepts are thoughts. What's thoughts? Thoughts are vibrations. Sound, word, vibration, energy. And also it's all a movement, a vibrating pattern of energy, which happening through this body with the brain and the heart, and it seems real that the pattern, shapes and forms appear in it. It seems so very real. But if it's non-conceptual awareness, what's awareness? Awareness is just another term for God also, because is anyone unaware right now? And you must realise, no, I'm not unaware. So if you're not unaware, mustn't you be aware? You must be its opposite. There must be awareness. So you already are that great perfection. But you see what they've said, it's non-conceptual. It's the concepts that's disguising it, that's hiding it, that's making us lose sight of it, where we go into the personal. And from the personal, we're into all this problem. And the Sagata tells you, I think it's chapter 2 or chapter 3 of I am that. The person is not reality. Got a chapter on it. Pointing out this personal idea, this conceptual image is not the reality at all. But we've taken it to be real, and we've lost sight of the fact that absolute means it's one without a second. It's non-dual. There's nothing other than that. We separate and seemingly divide everything, not seeing it in its true nature as absolute. And you can understand this too, because what being would there be for any of us or anything in this manifestation if it didn't seemingly express through these patterns, shapes and forms? And the wondrous variety and diversity that can experience. It's amazing, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, but being a vibration, it always vibrates in the opposites. When we put the labels on it, we've broken it up. Instead of being the one, it's become the two. Good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating, positive, negative. Watch your mind and see if it thinks any other way than dualistically. And in that dualistic patterning, we take it to be real. So now we've got a body, we've got a mind in the body, or a life in the body, and the body on earth in the world in the cosmos, and it goes on seemingly forever, but it's never been anything other than what it is, absoluteness, emptiness, a cognising emptiness. The Buddha calls it that, a cognising emptiness. An emptiness with the capacity of cognising or knowing. And aren't you knowing right now, basically? I know. Before you put I know this or that or no that, you can't say I don't know. You can say it. But the very fact of saying it, that means there's a knowing there that's enabling you to say it. And that knowing is the life, the very life of you. As Christ said, in him was life, and the life was the light of man. That life energy is what's lighting up that pattern, shape and form that you are right now. And he also said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. And I and the Father are one. This thing we call the Father, this so-called higher power, this Big Daddy, and is the Father. He says, I and the Father are one, but the Father is greater than I. The total power is greater than this personal power. Though it's the one essence. I don't use the term God here, because you can get confused with that term. We've got so many different concepts and ideas and images about what we believe God is. And I use the term intelligence energy. And that's not it, because no word will ever fit it. But it's just another concept. But I think it more use than believing that God's some big daddy out there in the sky that's going to grant me this and do this and do that if I pray to it or plead with it and do all this and other with it. And if I don't do it, it's going to beat the shit out of me. But it's not it's that one essence that vibrates in the pairs of opposites. It says the life and functioning intelligence energy is the label I put on it. Intelligence is knowing. And each and every one of us are knowing right now, which we translate as the thought I know and believe it's the personal that knows it. But without the personal, there's a knowing there, or a awareing, or a being there. And that's how they translate it in the Hindu scriptures, the non-dual scriptures. Satchitananda, Nama Rupa, existence, consciousness, loving to be. The Nama Rupa, name and form, are Maya, illusion, only pattern, shapes and forms that are seemingly real. But is anyone not existing right now? And you must read, oh yeah, I can't say I'm not existing, I am existing. Anyone who's not conscious? No, I'm not unconscious or unaware. So I am aware or conscious. Anyone who's not happy to be. So you're not realising it, but that you are already that. But we're realising when we started to reason all these thoughts and concepts we've learnt and picked up and taken to be real and put this mask of concepts on ourselves, which have stopped us from being, knowing, recognising and realising what we actually are. So that's what needs to happen. Recognise. The Buddha called it a cognising emptiness. Another term for cognising is knowing or awareing of. And he made that around. He said that we think we are the cognising emptiness because we're cognising this emptiness right now. And we think don't realise it's the emptiness that's doing the cognising. It's that one intelligence energy, that one activity, that one absolute perfection that's enabling the pattern, shapes and forms, the words, ideas and images, everything that's manifest in this cosmos. And a lot of the unmanifest too. Couldn't happen without that life. We call it life or intelligence energy. Intelligence is knowing. If you know anything, you know this and that, it's prize you have suffused with intelligence. And that knowing, the ing on it, is an activity. It's something that's going on right here, right now. It's not going on yesterday, tomorrow. Yesterday and tomorrow, it was now. And being recalled. If you can't recall it, you can't say there's such a thing as yesterday or tomorrow. And the recalling it, the only life you're giving it is what you're giving it, what's being given right now by that life energy. That's breathing you, beating your heart, growing your hair and your fingernails, the very life of you. And as I say, intelligence is knowing. And what's knowing? It's an activity. It's not knower or known, it's not something dead. It's something that's going on right now, like the seeing, the hearing, the tasting, the touching, the smelling. The ing is something that proves it's an activity that's happening right now. And that activity is movement. And any movement is a vibration, a movement of energy. So I use the term intelligence energy to describe it. And that's what's happening in each and every one of you now, right now. That intelligence energy is functioning. So that's what has to be looked at. Doesn't have to be. And it probably won't by a lot of people. They seem to get by without it or suffer accordingly and die and miserable. But there are some that it will take to where they've got to go. Because not everything that came into existence is going to recognise and rule it. Like not every animal or insect that's born is going to but they're prolific enough to make it, there'll always be a proliferation of them and they'll go on. But it's that same life that's in each and every one. I think it's the same life. And it's the one life, it's not divided into separate life. Take that life that's in you right now. You're seeing, you're hearing, you're tasting, touching, you're smelling, breathing, heart beating, all that functioning is going on. But really say, I am living this. I am life. But you don't, when you say, I am life, we think we are this personal life. But when Christ said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life, he wasn't talking about the personal. He wasn't talking about himself, though people think he is, because he was one of the knowers of truth that people had recognised and worshipped the messenger and not the message. He's talking about that sense of presence. That's the way. That's the I am. Describe yourself to me. And you'll say, I am Bill, I am Jane, I am this, I am that. And I'll say, I am Bob. What am I describing? A personal conceptual image, not the truth. So when he's saying, I am, it's not that sense, it's not that person he's talking about, it's the sense of presence. The knowing that you are, which you can't negate, which translates through your mind as the thought, I am. And he says, stay with the Nisargadatta says, stay with the I amness. He's not saying stay with the thought, I am, and repeat it as a mantra. He's staying in what it represents. It represents that very life that you are. So be that. Be what you are. I think Ram Dass wrote a book, didn't he? Be what you are. Not what you'd like to be, not what you will be. But you are the life. And have a look at that. Take the life out of that body. You've got a corpse. And that corpse has got eyes, it's got ears, it's got heart, lungs, hair, fingernails, nerves, sinews, all the organs, all the things, brain, all these organs, all the brain. Without that life essence, what good is it? What can it do? Nothing whatsoever. It's a corpse. All it can do is rot, which it will do. And it breaks down and rots. And enzymes form in it and start devouring it, breaking it down. But where does it go? It goes back into the one absolute again, which it never left anyway. It was only a pattern-shaped form appearing in the absolute, not recognising itself as the absolute, appearing as something else, separate and apart from itself. So, when it disappears out of that body, you've got a corpse. It's not a bit of good to you whatsoever. So how can you say you are this body or this mind? Because it's realised it's that life that's formed this body. It's that life that's causing the breath to happen. It's beating your heart. It's growing your hair and your fingernails. It's digesting your food. It's doing the living, the functioning. It's rolling the earth around the sun, causing the seasons to come around, causing volcanoes to form, implode and explode, tsunamis to come, galaxies to form, stars to form and just play around in it. Myriads and myriads and myriads of different patterns, shapes and forms. And it's the one life that's patterning, shaping, forming and everything. Why the fuck are you separating yourself from it? Why? And a good example of that is your computer. With that life that's expressing through us, we were able to build and manufacture and do all sorts of things, utilising that life. And we form a computer which has got some wondrous information in it. Amazing things in it. But if the power's not running through it, what good is it? Not a bit of good. Just the same as this body. If that life's not going through it, what good is the body to everything? And there's this thing here that it's got the green light showing on there. It's got the power going through it. It's working, but it's not otherwise. So take yourself to be what you are, the one essence, the absolute. Forget the person. The personal will look after itself. What brought you into existence is what is breathing you right now. It's what is beating your heart right now. It's what is replacing the cells in your body right now. It's doing the work. What are you doing about it? Oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. We set ourselves up and we don't like what's happening. We're constantly dividing ourselves with other concepts, other words, ideas and images. But in the recognition that the word is not the real, you must be left with life, and the word can be utilised. But when we believe in the word, it's using us. It's telling me I'm not good enough. I'm fearful, I'm unhappy. After all, I'm only human. And so that's one of the worst we put about ourselves. After all, I'm only human. Poor little me. Poor me, poor me, pour me a drink. So it goes. Well, that's enough burbling from me.
Wait, I'll just ask you one question from Stella. If you would call it a soul or that or God, do we have it or we are it? That's the question.
Yeah. It has you. It has everything.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
You have nothing.
Yeah.
Because the you never existed.
Yeah. Beautiful. I would answer with the question, who is we?
Yeah. Same thing.
That's it, yes.
Well.
Yeah? I'm gonna put you.
So I thought it was
Wait, Julia.
Okay.
Hang on.
Put your ears on. I'll wait.
Okay, so while everyone's waiting, I'll just add that thing which I really like, Bob answering a question about the ego. Like, are you still using your ego? And Bob would say, well, first of all, you find out who is there to use the ego or anything at all. If I found out with certainty there is no I to use ego or whatever you defined, whatever else you define, that's the answer, because yeah, that's the primary question, is who is there to interpret the world, to see the world in the personalized way. Then you don't have to personalize anything else ever again, and everything is as it is. And it's enjoyed this way. You ready? Oopsie. Can you pass it on? Oh, sorry.
Can you hear me, Bob?
Yes.
Okay. So, for the most part, I've lost interest in listening to, other non-duality speakers or anybody on YouTube. But once in a while, old patterns die hard, and something pops up, and I'll be like, all right, check this out. And I'll be listening. So yesterday, I was listening to Ram Dass, and you brought him up today. And you never bring him up, but you did today. And he was talking about, the problem with psychedelics and all that, but then he was talking about his guru, who took a massive dose of like LSD or something like that. Yeah, and it had zero effect on him. And he's talking like that's how it should be, kind of, you know what I mean? Like apparently that unless I could take a massive dose of LSD and have it have no effect on me, there's, that's the kind of like what I kind of got from the way he was talking about him, like that. Oh yeah, that's maybe it kind of in a way put me in the prison of becoming again, for a moment, just hearing him say that, because I'm like, well, maybe that, I'm not. Like unless I could take LSD in massive doses and have it have no effect on me, then maybe there's a consciousness that needs to like evolve or get more silent or more spacious, or I don't know what the fuck. But I just wanted to hear your comments on that.
It's very disappointing. It would have had no effect on you, wouldn't it? What the hell would you take? And when the so-called city powers and all the rest of it, they're quite valid in the appearance, but everything is in the appearance, the pattern, shape and form, and the appearance itself is not real. It's only a perceivably so. So it's quite valid, and why doesn't everybody be able to do it? Because it's not possibly not meant for everybody. It's meant to be. These things are meant to be seen by some, I suppose, for recognition. The amazing way it can pattern, shape, and form and express. It can express in wondrous ways. And people have all sorts of different experiences through the pattern. But what experiences do they have after life's gone out of the pattern? So the pattern, the body-mind, can be very useful. It can be a wondrous instrument, useful. But the other way around too, if you're not having these wavering experiences, what happens? You're in the miserable depths of despair, fear, anger, unhappiness, all sorts of diseases and symptoms and things like that. We're loaded up with pain, anxiety, stress, guilt, all these opposites appear. Could you tell one if the other wasn't there? Could there be day without night, for instance, or silence without sound? Could there be fear if there wasn't love, hatred without love, you know? They need the pairs of opposites to express truth. And this diversity of expression wouldn't happen at all. We'd be just this basic, static, silent, stillness, emptiness. What they call the void, the no-thingness. Not knowing itself. So what the hell? I'm going to have a dance, I'm going to have a dream, says Shakti. Says she, or so forms Shakti and vibrates and the world appears. And everything, not hearing.
Not well. Thank you.
And so everything goes on in that dance and expression. But each night when you go to sleep it disappears. And when that pattern is no longer of any use, it disappears for good in that particular pattern. But it hasn't stopped anywhere else. It still continues and expresses, but it's still always the same and never changed. So while you're here, why not take your stance as the Absolute and see what that Absolute has in store for you. See where it takes you. It's taken me through hip replacements, knee replacements, taken me through the booze, taken me through all sorts of different patterns. And amazing love, things like that I never thought was possible. So it's been a joyride on a lot of occasions, has its fun, has its moments. And it's only in this particular pattern for a little while. And who knows how it will express, and as it's still expressing in myriads of others around this pattern right now, in myriads of ways. So it will continue. What interest will I, Bob, as a person, have in any of it then? Not a bit. Will he be concerned about it? Was I concerned before my father and my mother got together? Conception happened. As Nisargadatta tells you, what were you before you were born? What were you before your conception? Try and imagine that. And then to think that you came from nothing, that would be an impossibility to do. There must have been something that came, and there was. There was your father and your mother, and there was the father and mother before that. As the Buddha said, every sentient being has been your father and your mother. It just means then as it was, but if you were a sentient being right now, you've been the father and mother of every other sentient being. So it's that right life that's always expressing and expounding in all this variety and all these different ways. So enjoy it. Enjoy.
Got some comments? Would you like that? So, hi everyone. We got a comment coming back to the question about the soul. John David says, I've heard Bob in the past refer to soul as S-O-L-E, the one essence, patterning, shaping and forming as everything. Soul, one essence.
Yeah.
And
That's where I say they got it wrong.
Yeah.
When they made S-O-U-L. I've never seen anyone dig out a soul yet.
Yep.
Haven't got any in glass bottles in the in the experimental room.
And we have also from George, question from George. Is meditation helpful as complementary practice to staying in presence? Or should I just leave it out?
Meditation has its uses. If it helps to bring your mind to one point of state if it's troubling too much. But then again, ask yourself, who's the meditator?
Yeah.
And what am I meditating on?
Yeah, the trap with the meditation is when you take credit for it. When meditation happens, because life moves you to meditate, you don't think too much about it, you just see what's happening. When you start thinking and analyzing, that's where the idea of me meditating to get something because it will help me with achieving something, that narrative is actually misguiding. And
the urge to meditate is there, you'll naturally drop into it.
yeah.
You drop into silence or the stillness or where the peace is. And you know that yourselves because you've all had tastes of it at different times. Never lasted very long, but you've all had tastes of it.
This good artist said, meditation is not thinking.
Yeah.
This good artist said, meditation is not thinking.
Not thinking, yeah, that's a good definition, isn't it?
It is, yeah. That's what they call no mind or pure mind. Without thought, mind without thought.
We have also a question from Amarnath. Bob, we wanted to hear your pain after surgery completely resolved or not? Your experience of pain, please.
It's a good and useful experience. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. And
It is useful, it keeps you alive without pain.
yeah, I wouldn't have been able to cycle a crook knee if I didn't have the pain, would I? Be collapsed and breaking down everywhere.
And also I know people who have the deficiency, brain deficiency that disable them from experiencing pain. They usually don't live very long. Kids are sitting on a hot stove and baking themselves. My girlfriend, who was paralyzed from waist down, was impressing her other kids, jumping from the top of the stairs and ending up on her knees. She never developed the normal length of the knees because even though she is probably my height from waist down, she's just half a meter short because it's all metal and screws. Just because her loving mother was always at her back and drug her to the operation, she didn't know her legs were broken. So that's how useful the pain is. It's a call for attention. It's a call for attending when the energy is needed. It brings it there. Yes, if Bob didn't experience the pain, the knees would keep collapsing underneath him and they wouldn't get fixed until it could be dangerous.
And pain, you can only get to a certain level, and when the body, you go out of it, the body, you go unconscious or black out.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Please, wait, just... Can you pass it on? Thank you.
All right, Bob, just a couple of reflections on the spiel this morning. In regards to dreaming, I was just thinking, I quite often remember my dreams, and there really isn't any difference between the waking dream and the sleeping dream in a lot of ways, because you realise when you're awake that nothing really happened in the dream. And it's the same with the waking dream. When you think about yesterday or something like that, did it really happen? I mean, in a way, the past is just in the mind as a memory. And sometimes I've noticed in dreams, I feel as if I'm somewhere where I've been before, like a big house or something like that. And it seems like it's a memory in the dream, or there's this farm I'm sometimes on in a dream, and it hasn't really happened, or seemingly hasn't happened, yet it seems like a memory in the dream, like in real life. Only there is something called memory in actuality. You can go in the other room and go, oh yes, I remember I did this yesterday, and it seems to appear in front of your eyes like that too. But maybe that's also happens in the dream life too. There's no real substance to it other than other than the observation of it, really. And the other thing was I was just thinking about thought, and the thought is what shapes us, as you were saying right at the beginning, it shapes the life. And yet we think it's my thought, this is my thought, or I think differently to you, or different thoughts appear. But that seems to be what gives us our pattern or shape. But thoughts, are they universal until we create the labels in the thought? I don't know, that's just a question maybe.
Yeah. How they get shaped.
That's terrific.
Yes, beautiful.
So everybody really knows it. What? We're conditioned to believe in the conditioning. Our schools, society, and everybody else teaches it. So we need to break the conditioned happenings. Is this real or is it a condition? Question it. See if is it the actual. The false can't stand up to investigation. As the Zakadata says, you realise you're dreaming a dream you call the world. That's this that's going on here right now. We're sitting there, any of us realising this is a dream we're calling the world. We're probably looking at what am I going to do next, or tomorrow, or yesterday, or about yesterday, what happened. And so we're looking for a way out. We did want that to happen. We don't want it to happen again. We want to change it, alter it. He says, realise you're dreaming a dream you call the world and stop looking for ways out. He says, your concern is, did you take the dream?
You like one part of
You like one part of the dream and not the other. We start to discriminate it and like one part and not the other. And then we get into trouble. He said, either love all of it or none of it. Don't discriminate it, don't separate it, see it as it is. And he says the rest will be done for you by that same thing that took you into the dream in the first place. That same life essence. In other words, it's doing everything. I've got no say in it whatsoever, even though I think I'm babbling on here. I can't remember my birth. I don't know anything about the cause of it. For the first 2 years of my life, I don't remember I was even in this body. Though the body was formed and came into existence and was living for that 2 years without thoughts, without words. And then, when the sense of separation came upon it, by learning words, how could you separate yourself if it wasn't for words? Your parents told you, little Johnny, you little Billy, you're a good little boy. And then you learned words from them like I or me or this or that, and you said, I am little Johnny. And you looked out there, that's not little Johnny. That's not me. So naturally, there's a sense of separation between that and me. He says, that sense of separation was the cause of all my problems. For instead of being just me, the life essence, or me the absolute, or me the great perfection, or me the presence awareness, it's now me, Bob, the Australian, the good fella, the not so good. And people are doing things that hurt him and this and the other, and they're dirty on me and blah, blah, blah. And this, and I'm trying to get things that are not happening. Poor me, what are they doing to him? I'm having a bad trot. And I beat myself up with the word. Not realising that the word was just a label. Word I. Can't do much with I. So what do I add it to? Oh, I am this Bob they told me I was. That's the label they put on me. I'm Bob. I am that. I am that word. I am that concept. And these things around me that don't fit that, they're not me. So if they're not me, they must be separate from me. And what's the sense of separation? I don't know what they are, so I feel very insecure about them. I haven't learnt words about all those things. Very insecure and vulnerable. That thing that I don't know what it is might hurt me. Do me damage. So that's when the sense of insecurity arises, the sense of vulnerability, and that goes on. And we try to get back to the sense of security again. Try to get the me, which we've added on to the well, I'm not good enough, or I'm fearful, or I'm unhappy, I'm not likeable, all these concepts are added. I've got a conceptual image now, which tries to get back to the absolute, which it can't. Because something that never existed can't get to something. So when we try to become something, it never happens. Being can never be becoming. So, and you are being right now. You're not becoming unless you put the labels on yourself. I'll do this and do that and become this and become that. But what if I am the being? I am the pure being. I am the absolute. You can't go around saying that to everybody. They'll think you're cracked and kill you, damage you. But initially know it and realise it and see the absolute in everyone and everything. And you mightn't like them, you might hate them. But you can't even put any energy into that much anymore. Where before it could become overwhelming and you go out and cut their throat or stab them or do something, blow them up, or I'll get the bastards one way or another. Now see for what they are. It might change. Things might change, and they do change. They've changed here in ways I've never expected or never could understand or never believed possible. Even the life itself has gone on, which I didn't think was possible to live to where I am to this day. And who cares how long it's going to go on in the future? Where's it going to go to? If the recognition is I am the birthless, deathless, timeless, spaceless, bodiless, mindless, one without a second, the non-dual entity, the non-dual everlasting, ever fresh, presence awareness. And is there any concern that I have to express in a particular body, or a particular pattern, shape and form? Or is it, as Johnny Cash sings in The Highwaymen, I may come back as a single drop of rain, but I will remain.
As you say, you give up all those concerns when you go to sleep.
You have to
night.
say it again because we can't.
As you say, you give up all those concerns when you go to sleep every night anyway, you know, quite easily.
When you give them up, they don't bother you, do they?
No.
Yeah, when you give them up, they don't bother you. We have a couple of comments from online, from people who are with us from far away. And this is Amarnath. Thoughts are there, not it doesn't matter. Okay, so that's this quote from Nisargadatta that has been a little bit, probably thoughts are there, are not, it doesn't matter. Probably was he meant that whether the thoughts are there or not, it doesn't matter. You are not mind. How does it affect you? So that's the quote from Nisargadatta. And Amarnath, anticipation creates future, desire. Memory creates past, fear. Both are non-existent. And now we have John David. Try and grasp that I thought. I, say it to yourself. Try and grasp hold of it. Try and make something substantial out of it. Sailor Bob from his book Presence Awareness. This quote was key for my understanding. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, I can add a little bit, just a fragment of the memory regarding the LSD story, because it's quite entertaining for me to actually open up that story, because I only heard about Ram Dass probably about a year ago with his story. But about 15 years ago, I was hanging out with Korean Zen Sangha Kwan and they had the same story about the Sansanin, their Zen master. And plenty of witnesses. Every time I heard the story, there was more of witnesses who actually saw it. And then I heard that same story about someone being super special because they could have a lot of LSD and no effect. About two other saints that are glorified as the whatever, how you glorify the messenger instead of hearing the message. And funny enough, recently I was given also quite not a handful, but 3.5 dosage of the LSD, and it had no effect on me. And the one thought that came was not that I'm super special, it was just a crap acid. Because another friend who had one, he said he didn't really feel much either. But whether it is the reaction or response from the mind, or that response, mind hallucinating or non-hallucinating, is happening in consciousness and it doesn't really take you for the trip, it really makes no difference. I think this is one of those stories that are being romanticized to pull you into the Sangha. Something that is supposed to promise, like the promises of eternal bliss. Look, he is having eternal bliss, this one or that one, so join. Oh, I heard the same one about Muji as well, with the LSD stuff. Like everyone is actually romanticizing the messenger by making him super special, by giving them some sort of the powers. I would not take any notice, especially if I was to compare myself with them and say, okay, they are great, but I am not, I will never be like them. That's definitely, they would be crying if they heard how that bullshit story, who is supposed to do the sales speech for their message, is actually creating more separation, division, and distinction.
That's what it did with me.
Yeah.
When I heard it, it was just like when I heard him say that, I thought, well, Ram Dass is supposedly kind of woke, I guess. I don't know, and I don't think I could ever do that massive dosage and have it have no effect, even if it was shit acid, So yeah, that's why I brought it up, because I just thought, there's nobody doing anything anyway, and at the same time, it seems like that sometimes there's like if I were to compare life now to life 20 years ago, it's the same life, right? What's different though is how it's playing out, I suppose. I don't know how else to say it, how it's being experienced. Okay? So these days, in this dreaming now versus the dreaming from then, I don't know. The dreaming is lighter, than it used to be. So it's still dreaming. But I like what you said. It's all valid in the illusion or in the appearance. It's just that they kind of get you hooked on the appearance, don't they, when they say stuff like that?
Wait, Bob, wait. No.
I took all this LSD or whatever it was.
Please speak louder. I can't. I'm sorry.
Took all this LSD and it didn't affect him. What if the anaesthetics you take when you operate on didn't affect you?
Ouch.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
So They come from plants or something too, the anesthetic, don't they? So some of it's useful, and some of it mightn't be useful. But if it gives you a good trip, enjoy it. Some people it mightn't.
Yeah, the medicines, the poisons, all those things are have their uses, their function.
Yeah, no,
Wait,
also,
wait.
It also, I think I mentioned this once to you before as well. I know people who have a pattern of using these medicines on a regular basis, and in ceremony. And I think it was one other person who said to me, well, if it's an every week ceremony, is it really a ceremony? I'm like, well, this is what they call mass, isn't it? It's a ceremony. But, I don't know. My children, when they were babies, they would use a crutch to help them walk, to stand. They used my hand or the sofa or the table or the chair or something to pull themselves up. And that's great. That's fine in the beginning. You maybe, once in a while if you need that. But after a while, if you're still needing a chair to keep yourself walking or holding up, that could be a sign of a problem, So I think that, I don't know, whatever,
It's after all, this is all just a justifying story. I mean, when people say that we do it to help to see something or to experience something, they don't do it. This is what life moves them to do. From human perspective, you're totally right. Yes, they can actually get addicted to the crutch and they can be a slave of a crutch. But from the life perspective, ultimate perspective, they don't do it. They are moved to experience something. And now they have blah, 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 blah. I'm doing it because of that. And I need to get that. And I need to, that's the trap of it all. Because that narrative will keep them, will justify and bring them back to the addiction. Whilst really the life may move them again or not. And again, even some patterns may have highly addictive personality and they will just resonate very, very quickly. They will get hooked on sugar or something. If they don't have justifying story, the chances are that in the absence of story, they will see the pattern. But when the story takes all the attention, the probability of seeing the pattern is much, much lower. So the probability that the pattern will ever get recognized and broken is also much, much lower. It's fascinating because there is nothing wrong. If someone dies of addiction, well, this is again the same one life. Through one pattern, experiencing itself as dying of addiction. Through another, as dancing whatever. Through yet another, as playing music. From the life perspective, nothing is ever wrong. Nothing is out of place. Just like the what was this Buddha Siddhartha Gautama saw the dead guy and the crook guy and the poor guy. I mean, if the poor guy wasn't crook, God forgotten, there would be no Buddha. I mean, everything has its place in a greater scheme of things. Even people with addiction, sometimes they could teach you more and your kids about addiction than any spiel ever given. So in that bigger picture, even there is a beauty and wisdom and greatness in all of it. See if we have any other comments. Apart from a lot of comments of welcoming home, Bob. Nope.
So I must be still here to be welcomed home anyway.
Yes.
There was this Irishman who ran into a leprechaun, and the leprechaun said, "You can I'll give you 3 wishes. You can have anything you want in the world." And he said, "Well, I'd like an everlasting, never-emptying bottle of Guinness." And then the leprechaun said, well, what would you like for your other wishes? He said, I'll have 2 more of those. Now, if you think about it, he could have asked for a second absolute.
Oh, yeah. But can you add anything to the absolute?
You want to say something?
I just did. You want me to say something?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't really know what is going to come up. Yeah, we can just make a joke of the second absolute, and or the God that cannot create the stone that is as heavy that he wouldn't be able to lift it himself. That's the paradox of the rules in the appearance. Like if we want to have almighty and omnipresent, omnipotent God, he should be able, he or it. I actually like when Bob was talking about God calling it it.
I prefer it as well.
Yeah, but this may be offensive.
Referring to this, whatever this is.
Go on.
You know? So a lot of people will say, you know, like, who are you? Isn't it a better question to say, what are you? You know? That's probably a little bit, because who implies that there's a someone here, there's a person here, doesn't it?
Yep.
You know?
It is.
Yeah, but there's an it.
And what is unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected.
You will have to repeat it, darling.
Sorry.
It is.
It is unaltered.
Yeah. Say it again, darling.
It is, and what is unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected, no preference, no compassion,
Comparison.
no comparison, no partiality,
Yes.
just as is.
And when I was hanging out with that Kwan Zen Sangha, and I was hanging out with 2 other Zen Sanghas as well, but that one was having the practice of who am I, asking yourself who am I, and answering the question I don't know. So when you ask who am I, and the mind has to admit that it doesn't know, it may produce the effect of mind cutting off, because mind is everything that does know and understand, and saying I don't know is quite confronting, and hearing it and accepting it. But when I got introduced to non-duality, I could actually make variation of the question, and instead of who am I, my question that was actually really shifting in the meditation what is I? What is it? It's like, yeah, is that even it? When I say I mean the sense of presence. I mean my own very, very intimate existence. Like when Nisargadatta says, stay with I am, didn't mean the concept or the thought or the mental image of I. What is I? Who is I? No, it meant that most intimate awareness of presence, that undeniability of being. So what is that I that hijacks that intimate being? Because if I'm investigating that I, obviously I'm not it. So in the being that I am, in the consciousness that I am, the I is showing up and saying, no, this is me, this is my being. And what is that I? When you look, even when you describe yourself, you describe the body. You say I'm a woman, or I'm this country or that country, or wife or daughter or mother, whatever. And also when you start describing your qualities or your values or your personality, you're describing the mind. But who is doing the describing? Who is it that knows about the body? Who is it that knows about the personality, the values, and all of that? There is a knowing. There is the inherent, innate knowing of it. So in that knowing, everything shows up. In that knowing, all the space of gaze show up. Everything I see is appearing in that knowing, in the presence and the knowing. And the hearing, every sound, every person, you are all appearing in that knowing. So how are you different? You are the content of that consciousness. How are you different to that consciousness? You can't be. So how are you different to that body which also appears in the same knowing, being knowing? So that really boils everything down to recognize that yes, it takes different forms. It puts different costumes, different masks, different shapes, different fragrance, different like thoughts. What are thoughts? Amarnath was saying, the thoughts are there and they're not there. Who cares? You're not your mind. Thoughts are just another way it shows up. It shows up as a tree. It shows up as a smell, as a sound, as an idea, as a mental image. How brilliant. That's the omnipresence. Everything that has a presence is another way that intelligence shows up. So thinking is also the way it shows up. But taking that thinking as description or reality, well, that can hurt. And that pattern of taking thinking to be reality is also just showing up. It's just the way it expresses itself. And yeah, just seeing the whole dance make you just bow down into the brilliance and the beauty of the whole dance, because, well, let's face it, that could have been nothing, no appearance at all. And let's face it, when you look close enough, there is nothing. There is no appearance at all. Because in one moment you close your eyes, and where is that magnificent world? It may show up as the memory, but that memory will stop also. Everything that comes and goes is just that passing cloud of appearance. So you get the thought, the feeling, the image, the sound, everything that is showing up as it has beginning and an end is an appearance. It's not the ultimate reality, which is the reality of being and knowing, that space of consciousness in which everything comes and goes. So when you really, really want to find and connect and reconnect and recognize the truth, your heart goes into what's real. And naturally, what's passing gets less of the recognition, less of importance. Like, yeah, okay, somebody doesn't like me, or there is some problem with money or health or whatever. How big is that going to become if most of my heart sits with reality, with the being and knowing? And there is not that much of the attention into the passing phenomena. Oh, he is ugly, or she is stupid. Who cares? I mean, yeah, yeah, sure, it shows up as well. Why not? Anger shows up, appetite shows up, preferences show up, but they do not become absolute reality. And if they do get a lot of attention for a moment, like, the survival instinct, there is a threat on the horizon, like, flip your hands next to the cat, it will also react. That's normal. The survival is prioritizing the safety of the body-mind, because without the safety of the body-mind, there is no experiencing and no expression. So even that is beautiful, but it is temporary. And when the danger is recognized and placed properly, the joy of life comes back, and the beauty and the reverence to.
I'm reasonably good at, reasonably anyway, at just being aware and thought-free. But but when thoughts start to happen, I find they overshadow the I amness. Yeah. I haven't yet mastered the space where the thoughts can happen and the I amness is lost.
But for how long do they overshadow? Because
once I go back to silence, that's fine.
Yeah.
But having the silence and the thoughts without losing the silence is my present situation.
I see. Yeah, but you go.
What's there first? Isn't the silence there first?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So do you think that whatever is appearing on it can get rid of it or throw it out. Still the background, the awareness will still be the background, whether thoughts going on or not. So the thing is, if you put less attention into the thoughts, if the thoughts are troubling you, put less attention into them, well, naturally the silence is going to be more profound. But the thing is to absolutely certain that that awareness has never gone away. Even when the deep sleep or anything at all has appeared on it, when that body's not there, it's fullness, absolutely total, absolute. Everything appears and disappears into it.
Yes. Yes, perhaps it's just a matter of practice. What do they say? Practice makes perfect.
Well, it is. It needs to be looked at and recognised. What's wrong with right now if you don't think about it?
But also, if that intelligence of life wants to express in a way that the strong thought takes over the whole screen, just the way you watch the movie, you forget that this is on a flat TV, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the good movie, the intention of the good movie is that you forget that it is only appearing on the screen. So if your experience of life right now is that the thought comes and it overshadows the background on which it appears, that's perfectly fine. I mean, what's wrong with that's how the absolute wants to experience itself through you. But do you ever forget that the thought happens because you're conscious? If you didn't exist, you weren't conscious, the thought wouldn't happen and wouldn't overshadow that screen.
Or I could change channels.
Yes. Change channels.
You can change channels.
Yes.
Yes, very good, very good.
So even the thought is a proof that the consciousness, the being and knowing is there. So the thought can be actually used.
Yes, no, I understand that on a sort of an intellectual basis, but in practice, the sense of presence and amness is rather too easily overshadowed.
And you think it should be different? Why do you think so?
Well, I quite like the stillness, and what I find with thinking, particularly narrative thought, it is very energy consuming and really quite troubling. It's like a pond being stirred up. Yeah. I like the still pond. Yes.
Yeah, I totally get it, and absolutely. Who does not prefer pain to pleasure to pain? It is, of course, much more enticing and enchanting to be in a state of stillness and pleasure and love than be in a state of anger and turmoil and.
Yeah.
But the trap comes with it that I don't want what is. I want something else. I want something different. I want more stillness. I want less thoughts. Now, if you see that pattern of wanting, you see that behind that pattern of wanting is really love for the truth. But the pattern of wanting, you stay with the love for the truth and see the pattern for what it is. Just the pattern of wanting what is not. And laugh.
Wanting it to be different probably cements the problem in the first place, doesn't it? You know? I said the wanting it to be different probably cements the problem of thinking in the first place, because you're thinking that you shouldn't think. Okay, so which creates more thoughts. Well, I shouldn't think. Now I'm thinking, why do I keep doing that? I'm thinking about that. And that probably reinforces the thinking. But
resistance is persistence.
Whatever you resist persists. Yeah. That was like one of my favorite quotes when I first heard it. But then I was just like, how do you not resist cancer when you have that, and poverty when you're poor and all that. But that's when I actually kind of what drew me to you guys was that Sedona method, when they taught me to embrace my current experience, as it is. So if what is right now, I'm feeling hatred. I want to kill the bitch. Dead. Kill her. Hire a hitman. Yeah. Could do that. Kill her. Don't take action. Don't do anything, but allow yourself to just enjoy that hatred for a moment and stay with it. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Even better. You know, just stay with the
Energy.
rah,
Yeah.
and just stay that. Okay, without the label, it's even better. Yeah, she's right. Yeah, just stay with that. And then what happens if it's fully loved and appreciated, you know, and celebrated even without a thought or a label? Is it just kind of? I like the. It just moves on all by itself, and there's nobody doing anything. You know, nothing. But when I'm going, I have to fix this. You know, to the degree that I have to do something. This is like the beauty of laziness. I don't have to do shit. It's good.
There is the Dalek school of non-duality. Resistance is futile.
Yes, absolutely. And I've got a couple of comments here from those who are with us online. I'll get them.
I look out the window here.
Yeah.
And I see from here to the window, there seems space, things in it, throughout further out the space again.
Mm.
All the way to outer space.
Yeah. Space hasn't changed.
No.
And none of those things have corrupted it, contaminated it. They're all appearing in it. So that's with thought. Thoughts are like appearances on that silent beingness that you are, awareness.
And love for silence is one of those appearances, and it's beautiful. We have the comments from Amarnath. Identify it as pattern. Unfulfilled desire becomes anger. Trace the desirer. Take it lightly. Don't give more attention. Try to appreciate them rather than condemn. Win their hearts with love rather than resistance. Ask them to accept things as they are, not what they think. Beautiful. We learn, that's also Amarnath, we learn fun from children. We become more serious often. They are considered as God. And that's also Amarnath. Senses are there. Oopsie. Senses are there as our slaves. We are masters. All senses represent 5 elements. Self is the master of them. Source. And Tanya, I do appreciate, there was a comment which disappeared from my screen, and the comment was on Tanya, how do you deal with an 8-year-old child when they are angry? How do you calm them? And then Tanya says, I do appreciate. I just seem painful for her. A movement to want to lessen her suffering came up. Thank you for the suggestions, Amarnath. And Amarnath says, the movement I want to change as doer becomes pain, but as a role of or drama of mother makes it a drama of fun. Yeah, I would actually stay with you, Tanya says, with that beautiful, compassionate heart where you really want to ease the pain of your daughter. What comes out as an action or expression or word is not up to you, really. It's up to the conditioning of the body-mind. But staying in that willingness or that warm, benevolent wish, I think that's just a delightful possibility of experiencing and expressing love, really. And you'll be guided, because life is always, life is experiencing and expressing itself through you and as you. Life will move you to do what needs done. Like, nobody can really tell you moment to moment, but yes, staying with the intention is always, because intention, like Nisargadatta was beautifully expressing it, intention behind every move, every action, every thought is always love. The love can be to me or mine, which is identified as a little self, or it can be to pure expansion of the being that embraces the absolute. But the love remains. Love is the motivation behind everything. Coming back to that motivation, that intent, is coming back to love, and from there life moves you.
Well, you ever heard the expression, the road to hell is paved with good intentions?
Yes, say it again.
Yeah, I was just reminded of the quote, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all. It just reminded me like that's it, so probably just staying.
Kill the bitch, kill the bitch.
Yeah. Something like that, yeah. That's coming from love. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's true. It's just that every action also, the road to heaven is also paved with the same intention, because there is no other intention ever in the world. So every intention is the good intention. Like you wanna, well, is good for the me,
Good, bad, what's the difference?
If I wanna kill the bitch, of course, it's not great for her. And this is where Nisargadatta make the distinction. What is the me? Is that this body, or is that whole universe? Because if the whole universe is me, is my body, I will find no intention to kill anyone within myself or hurt myself. If I recognize that divine essence behind the bitch, perhaps I may not be that keen of hurting the bitch.
Yeah, but she doesn't even exist, so.
It's just a reflection. Yeah, she doesn't exist. It's a reflection. But yeah, it's a saying. A lot of that kind of like world way to hell paved with good intentions. A lot of that saying is just to justify the failure. Like it's, if someone is walking the length to do something good and it doesn't really work out, and you want to have someone to blame, and you want to kick them in the ass that they've done wrong, they shouldn't have done it. Yeah, you have a nice little quote to back yourself up. But if you understand that they never done a thing, it was life that moves you to go to the barricade and start the war. It is life that moves you to destroy that oceans and that climate and that government or whatever. It's always life behind every movement.
Well,
And you don't really need to blame.
The road to heaven, the road to heaven being paved with good intentions as well. And then I was just reminded of something I heard Bob say from somebody else. Good, bad, what's the difference?
Yeah,
I like
that's
that one.
right.
It says the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It also says the right way is not difficult.
Yeah, can you say the whole thing again?
The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Now the road is another word for the road is the way. They call it the great way in Buddhism. The great way is not difficult. To those who have no preferences. When you've got no intentions, the road's going to be pretty smooth.
And then this is another thing that I also learned from the Korean Zen Sangha, when the master that was teaching was asked, where is that leading to? Where is that road taking us? And he says, well, that's the misconception right from the start. We are realizing that there is nowhere to go, we've already arrived. This is where we are going. This is where the road ends. There is no road. I mean, they call it the way because it's seeming movement in it. But there is nowhere to go. It is...
Yeah.
It's always now.
It's always now, yes, Cliff. Yeah, I've got another comment. The movement I want to change as doer becomes pain, but that I already had. Oh, now Amarnath says, thank God I learn often from others' anger and hatredness, love, peace behind that mechanism of mind. And king and queen are shining in their majesty, ever shining, and a lot of icons. Thanks a million, Kat and Bob. Oh, is it the time for us? Yeah, it seems like we got some thank you messages. So.
Yeah.
Mm.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yes.
thank you.